Ben White left the England squad in Qatar early on due to personal reasons. Southgate rubbish reports last week that White's departure was due to a clash with the assistant Steve Holland. So we can forget that. So White's now returned to Arsenal. Where is he now? He's in Dubai, currently training with Mikel Arteta's squad. And Arteta has claimed that he knows the reason why Ben White left the England camp and said that Arsenal are determined to support the defender as he returns to action. Thank you, Simon. He says, I know who Ben is, what he needs and what his character is, and how happy we are all to have him at the football club. Dean, it's a delicate situation, of course, we're aware of that. But is there a need here for openness and transparency from Ben White regards his England exit?
No, that's his prerogative and England's. But all you do is you open the door for everyone to speculate what has actually happened. And, journalists will do their best to try and find out exactly what it is. And it wouldn't surprise me if eventually it does get out. So why not meet it head on, unless it's something you obviously don't want to talk about, and you have that right, I guess.
See, I would normally be in the camp of it's nobody else's business. But there is an element of when you're called up to represent your country, you're not representing yourself, you're representing your country, which puts you into a situation where you become slightly more accountable for what you do and don't do, and slightly more responsible for it. Now, this is a deeply personal reason, and I don't want to speculate what a deeply personal reason might be, but if it is a deeply personal reason, then it'll have to be addressed in that fashion, which is these are deeply personal, private family circumstances, and I'm not prepared to discuss it with anybody. And that's the end of the discussion. If it is something else, then perhaps there is a responsibility. I would normally be actually absolutely in the camp where Dean sits, which is nothing to do with the bloody media. But he was called up to represent his country in a tournament that happens once every 4 years. Only 25 players can be called up to represent a country. It's a unique position, and with it goes a great deal of responsibility and public scrutiny. It's a national game, belongs to the fans. It represents and embodies all the things that we say are so important. You can't have one without the other. Yeah. So with that in mind, if you are leaving that World Cup camp, and there is something that needs to be, that there is a reason behind it which isn't so prohibitive for you to discuss, then there is, I think, an incumbent responsibility to say, this is why I chose to leave the camp of the privileged position that I was called into to represent my country. But I would say, of course, there are exceptions. Of course there's exceptions. There's deeply personal, private circumstances in everyone's lives that it's no one's business to have to discuss.
I totally agree, but one thing I would say is, whoever's advising him, or whether he just does it himself, but to then post on Instagram, "We back, baby," I'm sorry, but that's poor judgment from my point of view.
Isn't it?
If it is something that's clearly a big issue and a family issue, and you want your privacy, absolutely, totally agree with that.
Then everything goes dark.
Exactly.
Everything goes quiet.
Personally, you wouldn't hear from him until he's back playing, and that's it.
But that's a very good point you made, Dean. He's posted on Instagram, "We back, baby," followed by smiley emoji with the captions accompanying pictures of White working out in the gym. So why do that if you don't want to set tongues wagging even more?
But that's what I mean. It surprised me that whoever's advising him, or if it's himself, thinks that that's probably the right thing to do. That's just my personal opinion. I would have.
I think it's a good opinion.
I would have said nothing. Get back, start playing again, and hopefully, other stories take over and it's.
I don't know how available his Instagram is for everyone to look at, and I'm assuming that there might be an element of protection around it, or he may not be. He can have as many followers as he wants. Yeah. If he's got as many followers as he wants, and it's an open Instagram, then why in God's name would you, on one hand, you be suggesting you're not prepared to discuss the situation while you've left the country and you left the call up that you've had, gone back to England, and yet you're posting things on social media?
Well, that's right.
So Dean's point is very well made. You can't have both. You just can't.
I mean, we're always in pursuit of detail, aren't we? No matter what, on this show and other shows as well. And Arteta only kind of, if you like, fans the flames a bit by saying something like, "We know the reasons he had to leave the camp. I've been having conversations with all the players at the World Cup, not only with Ben, to try and give support when somebody needs it." So what kind of support is that? What does it look like, and why does he need it?
Well, it's support, that evolves around what the issue is.
Exactly.
And of course, the club
and the issue is, and we don't know.
No, we don't know.
It's just platitudes, isn't it, really, from Arteta? I mean, ultimately, you could suggest that the same sort of support could be given to him by the England camp, because ultimately, I don't suppose Mikel Arteta's around his house cradling his head. I mean, the bottom line is that Mikel Arteta's been asked questions in a press conference and has come up with some platitudes. Yeah. So riddle me this, riddle me that. A better answer would be, this is a personal and private matter, and the person that will answer that is Ben White.